Hello, and thanks for joining us today. I am really excited to have this conversation with Robin Keating and Robin Fleming. They've been writing for our blog here for now the last year and some change that we've been doing this. I'm really excited for our conversation. We're going to be discussing who does LoveINC serve? We get asked this question a lot. A lot of people trying to figure out what is LoveINC, what do we do, and most importantly, who are the people that we are actually trying to help? Who are the people that are benefiting from the ministry we do here at LoveINC? So to kind of get into it, ultimately LoveINC kind of has two populations of people that we serve, right? And so Robin Keating, could you tell me a little bit more, who are these two different populations of people that LoveINC serves and how do we help them?
So we serve our community that's in our county, people that are in need, people that are unchurched, people that attend church, but those that are in need to get the church to come alongside of them. But we also serve the churches. And how we do that is we serve the churches by equipping them on how to help their neighbors, how to help in their community, best practices, and opportunities. A lot of times we're able to supply a way for our churches to serve that they wouldn't be aware of. And it's probably my favorite part about working with churches is I'm able to connect them to people in their community that they would have no idea were in need, except that they came through LoveINC.
And so you both work in our connection center, right? Taking phone calls and talking with the neighbors, calling in for help and helping to make those connections to our church partners so that we can really serve our church as well. But I'm wondering from your experience and talking with the people calling in, what kinds of situations are they usually facing when they call in, right? We can have all sorts of ideas of the type of people helping, but what are like the common types of situations or the themes you're noticing going on in people's lives that you could share with us?
Well, so probably obviously there are a variety of specific situations that people find themselves in. Quite a few women, single moms who have escaped some kind of domestic violence situation and are newly housed but don't have anything. And so they're needing help with just furnishing their homes. But we have intact families, with a mom and a dad and the kids who are just struggling because somebody's lost a job or because the income coming in just isn't sufficient for meeting all the needs. And a lot of people that we are serving are they're struggling to actually cover rent and or utilities. And while we don't have the resources at this time to directly address that, we are able through the churches to offer other things so they can save some of that money toward their rent utilities. So it's a lot of people struggling with they're just struggling with covering all of the expenses, the necessities for getting by. And most of them are in families. Probably, I think the majority are broken. There's been separation, divorce, etc. A lot of single parents. But there are also a lot of just single individuals, older or widowed people. And I would say probably most of those single people are really struggling to have much of a support circle around them, and that's why they're reaching out.
I see a lot of isolation. Even if they're in a family, you see a lot of, if someone, like maybe it's a 2-parent home, but they're just going to work and coming home and doing the best they can and repeat. And when you ask, do you know your neighbors? Do you attend a church, or are you involved in any kind of support group? No, I really haven't had that. Would you be open to that? Yeah, almost everybody I talk to would be open to it, but it's almost a foreign concept sometimes like who does that? And so that, and I think also recently I've encountered people that have children with special needs has come up quite a few times. Again, parents feeling very isolated. They may have like financial support going on through different programs or maybe tutoring or something in that way. But some, I think, are really looking for some kind of interaction with someone that would understand their situation, or, I don't know, just support them where they're at.
I think there's also a significant percentage, maybe not a majority. I don't really know the numbers, but there's a significant percentage of people who don't have the kind of support around them that they maybe could, because they're embarrassed, they're ashamed of their situation or something along those lines. They feel too vulnerable. And even those that we talk to who are in churches, when we ask if they've reached out to their church family for some support, we'll often hear, no, I haven't done that. I don't tell anybody about my business. And so there's a lot of that we're responding to also.
And yet they talk to us and they trust us, which is a beautiful thing that they're willing to do that. It's interesting. They feel safer sometimes talking to us about what they're facing, their challenges.
But then we're trying to help bridge that gap, because we can't be the ones to walk alongside them permanently, right? We're not in their world as much as we might want to be. So trying to help them consider the possibility of letting themselves be a little bit more vulnerable with the healthy people that they do have around them.
Or I see people dependent, they have like one person that's supportive to them. And so sometimes I might ask, what happens when that person's not available? Who do you go to? And they don't have anybody. It's something to really start to think about, because that's not only that person won't be always available, but that's a heavy load for one person to carry the full load of somebody else's concerns.
Yeah. And so do you feel like the greatest need among those calling in is more the need for relationships more than anything else? I mean, just a thought I'm hearing from kind of based on what you guys are saying. I don't know.
I do, and I feel slightly hesitant to say that, because the physical needs are pretty big, right? I mean, we have a huge number of people now calling for rent assistance and utility assistance. So and those are really emergency needs. But based on the way that our interactions go, our conversations go with people on the phone, I would say the vast majority of the time people feel so much better by having been able to share their story and having been heard and understood, and just some hope. They're able to grab onto more hope. That's what I read. And so I guess I think I'm pretty sure that the biggest need really is for strong, healthy community. We're able to shoulder so much more when we don't feel like we're walking through it by ourselves.
Yeah, that's what happens when we're talking to somebody. Many times I'm wondering, how are they carrying this large load? And just by the end of our conversation, they're feeling so much better because they feel heard.
What do you think it is about our ministry, about LoveINC, about our Connection Center and all of that people feel like, though they can't share, maybe even with their church that they're a part of, but they can call us and share? Because I've even seen that a little bit in somebody I interacted with, a while back, who didn't want to be alone on a holiday and wanted to know if we could help them find somebody. But I knew that they were in a church, and I was like, have you shared this with your church? And it was again that same like, no, I don't want to be that person who needs all the help. And it was almost like this, it seemed from my perspective, right, that they felt this sense of like shame about not wanting to be alone, when it's like, that's what we're here for. That's what the church is there for. So what do you think it is about Love Inc. and our call center that people feel like they can call and share that?
I think through our training, I've learned to ask questions that I wouldn't have asked before, that gives that freedom to that person to speak. I preface quite a bit, making sure they know it's a safe place. I make sure they understand their value. I think if, like, that's one of the ways that we help the church. That's how we serve the church, is to help them learn how to ask certain questions, how to give the care to someone. And so to me, part of that is we're already praying before we get on the phones. We're already preparing our hearts to talk to someone. So we're already thinking that way. But for me, it's learning to ask certain questions to get a different response. I know I had to really work on not asking yes or no questions all the time. To ask a question, what do you think? Or tell me more about that. And listening to them talk and listen to them, hearing themselves process what they're sharing, even that seems to be of help.
I have a couple other thoughts that I think, just other factors in mind. One is not so much a virtue on our part. We're a bit anonymous because it's on the phone. It's not face to face. They don't know us in another setting. And so they can talk, a person can talk to us and talk about the most vulnerable things in their life, and they might never see us again. And so there's some safety in that. I also wonder if, as churches in general, I wonder if we have not made a good practice in, as we meet people and converse with each other at church or meet new people, have we made a good practice of being truly curious about each other, not in a nosy way, but just really receptive to and open, or curious about who each other is and what's going on, and then welcoming whatever we hear. Like, when you come to my church, are you going to meet people? Are you likely to meet people who will say, tell me what interests you and how's that going for you, and tell me more. And if you spill a struggle that you're having, is that struggle welcome to be voiced? And just part B of that is, people do have preconceptions about church and church people sometimes. And so maybe people that we're talking to on the phone who have a history with church think that they're supposed to have things together, and so aren't willing to ask their church community for support because they're afraid they'll be judged. And their preconception is they'll be judged, even if that might not be true.
Yeah. So would you say, like, do you feel like there are a lot of the people calling in are a part of a church already? Or do you feel like it's kind of a mixed bag, half and half? Like, how much, if you had to take a guess or put something out there, like, how, in your experience, does it feel like a lot of the people we support calling in are calling in and they're already a part of a church, or are they just like not completely disconnected from the church even?